Hey guys, welcome back to Kim's Creations, and today I'm going to be showing you how to build this awesome gaming PC. Alright, so first we're going to be putting together our motherboard. In this build we have Gigabyte B450M DS3H. Got drivers, instruction manual, and the I/O plate, shield, and motherboard. Alright, so we're going to be working on the box, just like this. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is unscrew these little plates here. Unscrew this. We won't be needing any of this because the cooler we're using, which comes with the processor, already has screws in it, so we don't need this. Alright, so the RAM we have in this build is XBG Data Z1 DDR4 memory, and it's 8 gigabytes 6x2, and it's 3000 megahertz. So paid about like $50 for this RAM, so it's not bad at all for what you're getting. Alright, so we're going to be doing these two lighter gray slots right here. 1 and 2 right there. So make sure you get it the right way around. So you're going to pull this back and pull this back. And push it in. Until you hear a click. And boom, that one's in. Let's put this one in. And the reason I want the four slot model is because it has better capability of upgradability in the future. Alright, so now that our RAM is installed, let's get our processor. We went with the Ryzen 5 2600. Pretty good processor for this range. Take this apart. There it is right there. Looks pretty nice. And then the cooler right here, which by the way this already has pre-applied thermal paste, so we don't really need any. But you can use them if you want, but you're gonna have to wipe the old stuff off the cooler. Alright, so to install a processor, you're going to pull on this lever, you're going to pull out, then up. Take our processor out very carefully, and on the processor there's a little arrow right there. You're going to line that up with the arrow on the motherboard. The arrow on my motherboard is right there, so I'm going to line this up like this and drop it in very carefully. Now that the processor is in, we close this and put it back, and the processor is in now. So let's start by installing our cooler next. Let's take this out of the box. And you're going to make sure the AMD logo is facing the all the I/O ports. As you can see, it already has the screws. Alright, let's put this on down. Good. Alright, let's screw it in. And you don't really want to screw one screw in at a time. That you want to screw them in like evenly. So screw this a little bit, screw this a little bit, screw these a little bit. That way it all like goes down perfectly and the thermal paste gets applied just right. So screw this down a little bit. Screw this one down a little bit. And don't worry about over tightening it because it has these little things on the screws to make sure you won't. So that's something you don't really need to worry about. Now that the CPU fan is installed, we can take the CPU cord and plug it directly into the CPU fan port. So it's going to plug in just like this. And boom, we can probably tuck the cable out of the way a little bit. Now the last thing for the motherboard is our SSD. I went with a 128GB one because I'm not really planning on putting any games on this. I'm only going to use it for Windows 10. I've already opened this though. I did buy this on Amazon for $25 new. So I'd say it's a pretty good deal. But yeah. Alright, so on our motherboard for the SSD, which goes right here, and by the way it's an M.2 if you're wondering. You unscrew this little screw here, which is going to screw it down. And now that's out of the way, we can put this here and kind of put it in at an upward angle like that. Push it down and put the screw back on. And then screw it down. There we go, now the SSD is installed. And now that we're done with all of that, the motherboard is finished, so we can go put it off to the side for now. Alright, let's unbox our power supply now. So we got a Thermaltake Smart Series 500 watt, which is plenty enough to power our build. So here's this power supply. Only thing I don't like about it is it has colored cables, which I can probably get around by using like electrical tape or something on the ends of each cable. Not really a big deal, but I want my build to look really clean and nice and polished up. So I'm most likely going to do that. Alright, I'm getting my case now, and we're going to screw this thing into it. Alright, and for our case, we went with the MusicTech 907 gaming PC case. So for $100, you're getting 6 RGB fans. So I think that's a huge value for $1. So what I'm going to do is just take off the glass panels and flip it around the other side because I don't really want to damage any of this. I probably won't, but I just want to take precautions in case. So I'm going to take all this off. And then flip it around and install the power supply. Now I can install my power supply. I'm just going to do this and should probably actually get these cables not all bunched up. That way I can move them around a little bit because they're getting in the way. There we go. That helps. Slide this in just like so. There we go. And that just goes up there on like that, and then I'll show you how to screw it in. Alright, your PC case, if you get the one I got, should come with a box full of, or a bag full of screws. And then your little instruction manual will tell you what those screws go to. So I already found the power supply screws, so I'm going to go ahead and get those out. And they're in this little bag right here. I can open it. It's hard to open. Alright, so I'm just going to dump all of these out right here. And I'm probably going to do this in a second, like get a little container, put all these in because you should not lose any of these. But yeah, the power supply screws from my case look like this. They have a little thing on there. So I'm going to go ahead and screw that in. Alright, so we're going to be lifting the power supply up a little bit to get it on these little things. And just like that right there. And let's see. So on mine, I gotta screw it into the bottom right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Grab another screw and screw it into the bottom again. And this will pretty much hold it in place for now, but then we gotta do the rest of the screws. Now, a very quick and easy thing is we need to install the I/O shield. So this came with the motherboard, and I take it out of its packaging. Stab it with a screwdriver. Alright, so to put this in, you should just be able to shove it in like this, and you want to make sure it's actually going in right. And you should just hear a little click when it goes in. Alright, so I realized you actually have to push really, really hard to get it to go in, but when it goes in, you should see the little outline of this, and it can't come out. So the I/O shield is installed, and we're good on that. You get this box out of the way. Alright, now we have our motherboard again, and we're going to gently put it inside of the case. So you want to line this up with all the screws, just like so. Make sure it gets in the I/O shield just right. I made probably the dumbest mistake by installing the I/O shield upside down the first try, so I had to reinstall that the correct way. So I'm going to start by screwing the motherboard. This one screw right here is going to be very hard to get to because of the fans. I hope I don't have to take any of them out. But if I do, I will. So I'm just going to screw in, because a lot of these, because this is a micro ATX board, a lot of these actual screw holes, there are no standoffs. I might be able to put some there, but there's not really a point to, because it's just a motherboard. But there's enough. There's probably about 4 screws that I could actually screw into the standoffs, which are these little golden things. And yeah, I'm going to screw those in now. Alright, now the motherboard is installed. The only screws I can put in are 1, 2, 3, and 4, so that's plenty to hold it in. It's not going to go anywhere. So these are all my power supply cables, and this is the 24-pin one, which plugs directly into the motherboard to give it power. So I'm going to be routing it right through that hole right there around to the motherboard. So I'm just going to stick it through here, and then see you on the other side. Alright, so the 24-pin cable is plugged in, and yeah, I don't really like all those colors, so I'm going to just use some standard electrical tape to cover that up. Probably not now, probably when I finish the build, I'm just going to pretty much polish everything up, and that includes putting tape over that. But yeah, that's plugged in. Now we can plug in the CPU, that's an 8-pin actually, and that we're going to route through that little hole right up there. So let's find that cord. Alright, so I just already went ahead and put electrical tape around the CPU power. Because I'm really going to get to that later. But anyways, this is the USB 3.0 plug, and this comes from that. So I'm going to plug this right into there, which is the USB 3.0. So let's plug that right in. It's backwards. There we go. And there we go. It's plugged in. And you can do our best to tuck cables out of the way. Might be better if it comes through that one, so I'm going to try to get it through that right there. Alright, so the next port we need is the HD audio cable, and right there it says audio on that little port right there. So we're just going to plug this in to that right there. See if you guys can see that. And there we go, it's plugged in. Next cable is the USB, which can just plug into USB 1 or 2. I'm just going to plug it into 1, and it plugs right in just like that. Give it a little push, and there we go. That's in, and so is HD audio. Alright, so I think the thing that's going to confuse the most people is the F panel right here, which is all that right there. But I'm going to show you how to do this, but the reason I'm not going to film me doing this is because it's going to be hard to hold the camera and everything. But anyways, the top left is the positive power LED, and the one right next to it is the negative power LED. The one that goes right next to it is the power switch, and this is not 2 different ones, it's actually a full thing, so that plugs right in next to it. And then we're not going to be using any of this right here, just this little part right here. Alright, now the one on the bottom right there, which is under the positive and negative power LED, is the HDD LED, so that just plugs in with the 2-pin right under there. And last but not least, the reset switch, which goes right under the power switch right there. So now that all that is plugged in, we can just go around the back, kind of pull all these cables like that. We will cable manage these better, of course, but that looks pretty good like that. No really excess cables laying around. But for the meantime, let's get to the graphics card. Alright, we went with the Radeon RX 580 Sapphire Edition. So it has 8 gigabytes of GDDR5 RAM, and it's DirectX 12, which is really good. It's Vulkan FreeSync 2. Really great card for around this price. Paid $164 for this. Let's unbox it. Oh wow, this looks really good. This looks really good. It has the metal backplate on here with like the cool sapphire logo and just a sick design. So yeah, we're gonna leave these little blue port covers in for now because we don't really need to take those out. Well, let's get to installing this. First things first though, before we install this, we have to take out 2 of these shields. So I left the top one in, and I took out these 2 right here. That way the ports and the vent have room. You're also going to want to take out this little shield here, and that way the graphics card actually can fit in, and then we can put this back on later. So let's get to installing the graphics card. Alright, so let's just grab it and install it. And you should hear a click whenever it goes in place. And boom, there the click was. That's what it's going to look like in the build. That looks really, really good. Now we're going to take our graphics card screws and screw them in right here and here. So let's do that. To screw the graphics card in, we're going to put 2 of these little screws right here in these little slots, and pretty much they're just the same screws that held in these little covers here. So we're just going to put the same screws in place on the graphics card instead. Alright, I have routed the 4-pin cable, or it's actually the 8-pin, never mind, which for some reason has this here, but whatever, don't really matter. I routed it through that little hole right there where we put all the F-panel cables through, just because it's going to look neater instead of routing it right through there. So, all the rest of the cables, I'll get to what those are for in a second. We're not really going to use any of those, but we need to use one of them. But anyway, so now all I got to do is just plug this in. I'm going to use this one because it's going to be easier. And then just push it in. Alright, so now the graphics card is plugged in, so the actual power is coming from there, and then the excess one I just shoved in that hole because, like, I mean, that doesn't look terrible. That's really all I can do. I can probably find a better way to hide it, but that's what I'm going to do for now. So the PC is almost completely done, but now we got to work with the fans and give them power, and then, yeah, we're pretty much be done with the full PC. Alright, so if your case comes with fans already installed, it should probably come with a fan controller, which is this right here. Mine has this nice little adhesive on it, so I'm going to mount it right there where you would normally mount SSDs, on probably this side or the other side. But yeah, I'm just going to mount that there, and I'll show you what to do after that. One thing that was nice about my case is it came with a little bit of these little zip ties, so I'm going to try to zip tie some of these cables together to cable manage them a little bit better. This is really messy, but it's kind of hard to cable manage all this. Alright, so I've tried to cable manage all of this a little bit better. I used some zip ties there and like one right there. It looks a tiny bit better, but really all I care about is the cables being out of the way. The last thing you gotta do is this is a SATA port, which is power, and that plugs directly into the fan controller to power all of the fans. So now what you're gonna do is take one of the SATA ports coming directly from the power supply and plug it directly into that. When that is done, it should look like this, and then you can just tuck it out of the way. Alright, so everything is done. And now I just gotta tuck away these cables and put the back panel back on, and then we can try to see if it boots up first time. Alright, all this is a big mess right now, but all I have is my keyboard, which of course I'm gonna get a new one soon, and a display port, and of course the power plugged into it. If you guys want to know how to get this Windows 10 key, I'll show you how to in a new video, but I already have this. I'm just going to plug it in, and let's see if it works. That is a really good sign, so I'm going to press F12 repeatedly, or F2 or delete. See if it powers on. Okay, that's awesome. Let's go. Alright, well, I need to plug in my mouse, so I'll do that real fast. Alright, so I just clicked OK because I took out the battery earlier. But yeah, we have a Kingston SSD, so we're just going to click that, and it should boot to the Windows install menu. Alright, yeah, boom. I'm just going to show you guys how to do this real fast. I'm just going to click Next, install now. And then I'm going to click I don't have a product key. I'm going to click Windows 10 Pro. Next. Pretend I read this. And now it will install. Alright guys, that'll be it for today's video. Hopefully maybe you consider to build your own gaming PC like this one, or just build one in general. I'm going to be doing a benchmark video soon with all the benchmarks and how to install drivers and stuff like that, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, peace out guys.